Okay, guess I'm live. Looks like it, sounds like it. I must be. Hello, good morning. I hadn't planned to be on here today, but I was working on something that I thought might be fun to show. So here I am. I'm going to wait just a minute, see if anyone shows up. Basically what I'm doing is I'm working on, I've just started working on some pieces that I will use on journals, on covers of journals. I'm not going to cover the whole journal. I got 2 sewing journals right now that I've just started. I have fabric for one that I think I'm going to use on one of them, but I don't want them both to be exactly the same. Fabric, spools of thread. I really think it's cool. I like it a lot, but I don't want to do them both that way. So last night I was thinking about it, and I thought, I got so much stuff, and I've been thinking that I'd like to try using fleece to do some stitching on. And I've been wanting to do crazy quilt type stitching. And hi, Jersey. How are you today? I hadn't planned to be here, but here I am. Hi, Mary. Melody. Jersey must have put the news out or something. All these people are showing up. Oh, my nails. Yeah, well, we talked about that yesterday. They're pretty blingy, but that's okay. So anyway, I'm working on some sewing journals, and I wanted to do something different on one of the covers. I have fabric for one. So Melody, now that you're here, I got all this fabric from you. This is some of the stuff I got from Melody. And I have plenty of fabric. I don't really need to purchase fabric, but I don't have this kind of fabric. I have a lot of cottons, and oh gosh, I have a pile of fleece for projects that I did before and things like that, but I don't have this kind of fabric. So I'm going to go ahead and start. Let's see, who else is here? Keisha. Hi, Keisha. Keisha put her head in. So I just, like I said, I had started working on this morning, and all I've done is I've taken a piece of fleece. It's not batting, it's fleece. I have so much of it, I thought this would be a good way to try to use it. And and you could see it was from something before, so it's just a piece of scrap. And I'm not worried about it being big enough to fit over a journal cover, because it'll just be, a piece that goes on the front or whatever. And so all I did was I took the fabrics that I got from Melody, and they're all really cool, vintagey looking pieces. And I just cut them into smaller pieces, snipped them up, and layered them on this fleece. And to hold them in place, instead of using pins, I just did some big basting stitches. Let me hold that up so you can see. And that's all basting is. See, like right here, just big old basting stitches. There's a knot at one end, and when I get to this end, I just cut it off. And so later it will be easy to pull out. And I tried not to get too involved with the edges, because that's where the stitching will be, and I don't want to tangle up with a thread. So that's just to hold them together. You could do it with pins. It's not a problem. I just like to do it this way, because if I was trying to decide whether to do this on the sewing machine or, and there's Safia. Hi, Safia. With the sewing machine or by hand. Now, if I do it on the sewing machine, it's going to take a lot less time, and most sewing machines these days have buku stitches on them, but I think I'm going to do it by hand. I'll probably get to like here and think, oh, this is taking way too long. I'm going to put this on the machine. But for right now, I'm going to start it by hand. And so it's a pretty simple process. I just make sure that every edge overlaps, because the edges are raw. I'm not turning them under. The edges are raw, and you can just stitch right along both edges, and that will hold them down. And that's kind of how I want it to look. So it's like, like slow stitching. And And you know what? I forgot. I have the coolest little book. This is actually going to look more like a crazy quilt, is what I have in my mind for it to look like, with different kinds of stitches, you know, maybe some little embroidery in places and things like that. So it's really going to look more like a crazy quilt. And I have the coolest little book. I'm looking to see if I can see it from here. I don't see it, but I'll have to find it because it is absolutely amazing. It's just a small little book, and it has all these stitches. Excuse me. Sorry about that. It has all these different stitches you can use, and it shows examples, and it is just the coolest little book. I should have got it out. I didn't think about it till just now. I have a pretty good library of stuff of all these years I've been crafting. So anyway, I'm just gonna, that's basically what it is. There's so many different ways you can start this. I could have just used glue stick, but I didn't think it would work well on the fleece. So, and I didn't want the pins to be in the way, so I just, you know, did the basting. And I just start at one end with a row and then put in the next row and keep going. So here's the whole thing, and some of them are coming loose because I rolled it up. So here's the whole thing. It's not very big. And I'm just going to roll up the end so it's out of the way. And then the other thing I'm going to put on here is I've been, whenever we moved 3 years ago, I had everything packed away, almost everything packed away. And because I just couldn't, there was so much to pack and everything, I had to have something that I could work on, or else I would have been nuts, because I have to do something creative all the time, or I can actually get sick if I don't. It's really weird. But so, you know, I try to keep something that will keep my hands busy all the time. And what I was doing is I was working on some hexie quilts. And I made, these are little bitty ones. I made some bigger ones. The squares are maybe like this, what are they, like 4 or 6 by 6 or 5 by 5 or something like that, separately. And my idea was that I was going to make a quilt, a lap quilt for 5 people in our family. And the blocks are all done. A couple of them are set together because I'm machine quilting them, because I can't really do it with my hands so much anymore because they cramp and stuff. But I have them all ready to go, and then we moved. So that got put away, and I haven't gotten it out yet again. So, but I also have these. I was really trying to use up all my scraps. I didn't want to throw them away. I didn't want to give them away. I wanted to use them up. So everything I had that was a cotton, I made hexies out of. And the hexies they're called hexies because it's a gram. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 sides. And you can make them in different sizes. The ones I'm making the quilts out of, they're this size when they're finished. But this size of a piece of fabric makes this size of a hexie. I don't know if you can see that. Maybe this should help. Because it gets all folded up and stitched down. So I'm going to show you how to make one of these. And I'm going to use, I have this whole little box of them here. And I have actually started a quilt top out of these little ones. And it's all different colors. And my daughter's already claimed it. And I've made it as big as it's not going to be very big. I made it as big as it's going to be, and then I'll put borders on it, you know, to make it bigger. So it'll be big enough for a lap quilt. But that's what these are. I just make them, and then I string them on here so they're in order to where they're not the same color every time. So when you make these, you have to start out with the exact size, the way I'm going to show you how to stitch it together. You have to start out with the exact size. You can buy punches. Fisker has punches to make the pattern pieces. And for the bigger one, I used the pattern piece. And boy, here's one. So here's a pattern piece. And with the bigger, when I make the ones that end up this size, I don't have to cut it exact. And I have nothing to show you how I do it. Let's see. So like if this was the piece of fabric, just have to cut it about 2 inches by 2 inches for this size. And then as you're sewing it together, you fold it down like this, and you stitch through the corners, and you fold it all. That wouldn't be showing, but you fold it all the way down, stitch through the corners, and the paper stays in there until after they're sewn together. So anyway, that's a lot of people do these, and it's a fun thing to do just while you're sitting watching TV or whatever, because it's little. This is my little box that I do these in. It's portable. It doesn't take a lot of fabric, and you can make really cute things with it. So anyway, I will show you how to make one of these real quick, and then I'm going to start stitching. And I might even go see if I can find my book real fast. Does anyone else do these? Keisha's having problems. Just ordered a new computer a couple days ago. It should be here next week, I think. I'm pretty excited. It's coming to the craft room. You felt intimidated by the hexies? I hope I remember how to do this. Let's see. I do have to remember how to do it. Oh, yeah. Okay. Oh. Yeah, I think this is right. I haven't done them in so long. So I've just got a single thread threaded on my needle with the knot. Okay, guys, this is terrible. I do have to refresh my memory. Oh, okay. So you start in the center. It's really easy to find the center. Just fold this over and just take a tiny stitch in the center of the hexagon. I don't know if I'm where you can see me good. Let's do this. Maybe that's better. Okay, and I'll hold it up a little bit. Okay, so you fold it over and just take a little tiny stitch in the center. Then you open it up. You go up to the first corner, just any corner, it doesn't matter. Take a tiny stitch in the corner and pull it down to the center, and it will look like this. Then you you fold this so that you have another point for the next point. Just take a tiny stitch there. You just want enough to catch it. If you take a big stitch, it throws it out of whack and it looks wonky. But if you just take a tiny stitch, see, there's where I am now. See how nice that looks? Now here, if I went over here and stitched it now, you see how that would be wrong, because it's not going to make it even. So you want to get it, my hands are dry. You want to get it to the corner. Just go through the corner, pull it down. See what it's doing? And you just do that all the way around. It's real simple. It's a lot easier than the paper piecing, which is what they call the other method, where you have the paper left inside. And you pull it down. Tight, pull it tight. Same thing again. I'm having an eye appointment tomorrow. I'm getting where I cannot see good enough to do things, and it is really frustrating me. So hopefully, we've been so busy I haven't made an appointment, but I'm going tomorrow, so hopefully I'm gonna get a new prescription or whatever is necessary. And then you pull the last one down. See what it's done? It's made its own little thing. And then at the last one, you just take one or two little stitches. You don't want it to go through to the front. Just one or two little stitches to hold that together. The back's not going to show, so it's not a big deal. But you don't want to take too many big stitches, because when it's all put together, when these are all put together, you have to go to the back and snip out the center with the scissors. If you don't, it kind of leaves like it feels like a knot in the middle. Okay, so there it is. Do you want me to do another one? Let me try a different color that you maybe could see better. Now see, here's one that didn't get cut out very well. I usually stack the fabric and cut it, and once in a while I'll miss, the piece might not have been big enough. So that one's not one to use. Okay. I'll do one more. Start in the center. Take a tiny stitch. Open it back. Grab a point. Bring it down to the center. And when that comes down, every time it comes down, it's going to make a straight line across like that, and it almost makes the point by itself. And you just do the same thing all the way around. Now the little quilt top that I should have brought it. I'm sorry, I didn't think I was going to do this, so I didn't prepare stuff. But next time I'm working on it, I'll show the little quilt top that I've done with these, and I think it's already got about 1,000 of these on it, believe it or not. If you're interested in working on hexes, there are a lot of YouTubes about it, really nice ones. And also, if you look up paper piecing, it shows you the other technique on making them. So there, I'm back to the beginning. Now, sometimes you'll get a little bit of wonkiness where maybe one side looks like it's not even or something. And that's really because a fabric has a bias. And sometimes that will affect it. But you can kind of work around it when you're sewing them together. Okay, so there's another one. All right. 30% update. Don't you hate that? I am so excited to get this new computer. We have a decent computer upstairs. It's not very old and works pretty well. And right now, that's where I've got all my graphic stuff, and it is loaded up with digis and stuff like that, But I want to move everything that I can down here. I'm going to leave some of the graphics up there because that's where the good printer is. It's upstairs. And I can print on it from here. But what am I doing? But then I can't see what's happening, And I'm not going to be running up and down the steps. So I'm going to start with some blanket stitching. And I think I'm going to start with some of this color. Or wait, maybe, no, red. I'm going to start with red. I'm a red girl. I got to start with red. And I like to work with a length that's comfortable. I mean, you can work with longer stuff, but it gets in the way and gets tangled up and all that. And I think I'm going to work with embroidery thread. This is regular embroidery thread, embroidery floss, and it has 6 strands. So I think I'm just going to work with 3 at a time. And I got my other needle here. So I thought it would be cute to put some of these hexies on here. What's everybody else doing today? Besides watching me and thinking, I hope she shows me something interesting instead of dull. So I'm just going to do a blanket stitch, which is pretty simple. And I think, you know, if I can, I want to zoom in, but if I try it, it's going to mess me up, I'm sure. So I'm just going to do the best I can. And a blanket stitch just goes around the edge. So you come up at the edge of the fabric that you're stitching on. And then, so here I've come up. You go over, you want even amounts. You go over, I'm doing like maybe, well, it's less than 1/4 of an inch, maybe 1/8 of an inch. And then you come up in the middle of the fabric. Sorry, my words aren't too good today, are they? You wrap it this way. And you pull the thread. And you pull the thread in this direction. And when you do that, this loop is going to hang on to the this thread that you pulled over. And this is awful. You can't see this, I know. Let me try to increase it. See what happens. Hi, Teresa. Hold on. Hold on. Let's see. See, that's one of the things that's with this. I'm using a laptop, and one of the things it takes forever to open the camera. And if I leave the camera open, then StreamYard won't recognize that the camera's on. So it's a pain. I should have been better prepared. I'm sorry. It's working. Come on, come on, come on. Oops. A little better. Oh. Okay. I think that's as good as it's going to get. All right, that worked. Okay, sorry about that. So, like I said, you're at the top edge of the fabric. You want to do your stitches evenly spaced. And it's a little bit hard. This fabric's silky, so it's kind of hard to do that. There are a lot of little tricks you can do. They actually have tape that has lines on it. But here's one of the other things you can do. You can put a piece of tape on your finger. Find a piece of appropriate tape. you can put a piece of tape on your finger, and then you can either mark the side of your finger with lines, or you can put a piece of tape, which is what I'm going to do on your fingernail. I'll mark it first. So that it shows you how far apart you want your stitches. And then you just stick it. Depends. If you hold it like this, which I do, you can put it here. If you hold it sideways, you can put it here. But I basically just marked how wide my stitch is going to be. And then I can use that as a ruler as I'm going. Normally I just do it by eye, but this is another way you can do it. So see if I, whoops, I don't need a pen, I need a needle. This is, so you can, so what I do is I put one mark where that stitch is, and then I come up where this stitch is, where this mark is, to make the other side of the stitch. So you can do it like that, and then you just move it along. I'd really rather just eyeball it. Hi, Rochelle. Hope I didn't miss anybody else. I don't usually use a hoop to do this. And you just go along the line, stitching, bring it up, pull it over, and what it's doing is this is actually a loop that this thread is making look square. And I'm not very even today. If I was doing this on a different kind of backing, I might be tempted to use a glue stick, but some of this fabric isn't cotton, so it has a tendency to get out of your hand. You know, it's a little slick, a little more slippery. So you just kind of have to hold it and hope for the best. So this is one stitch that's fairly common and pretty easy to do and pretty fast once you get going. Teresa, I don't believe that. These are pretty wonky right now, but I'm not too worried about it. You can do this with any embroidery stitch that you want to use. See, some of this fabric is very what's the word I want? Flimsy. It's not really the word, but it's thinner and it's more delicate than a cotton, so you have to manipulate it a little bit more. And I'm just trying to make sure that my fabric stays flat and stop every once in a while and flatten everything out. Otherwise I'll have ripples. See, this right here has a tendency to ripple anyway. But as long as you just, take your time and don't get frustrated about it, it'll be fine. See how frustrating that can be? But I can't really glue it. I could pin it. Maybe I'll do that just to make it a little easier. That'll help. So as you can see, except for having to talk while I'm doing this, it doesn't really take that long, if you'd sit down and work on it steadily. Actually, this fleece is pretty easy to stitch through. Really easy to stitch through because it's so fluffy. Now, fleece does stretch a little bit, so, you know, I'm kind of trying to make sure. That's another reason I basted everything on, to sort of stabilize the fleece also. If you have trouble when you're doing this kind of stitching with your thread getting tangled, try using a shorter thread. I know it's irritating to have to re-thread your needle a lot, but sometimes that's just what you need to do. Now I'm going around a corner. So I made this stitch. I made this stitch. Come on, camera. In the corner. And then I made this stitch from the point to the middle of the corner. And then I'm going to make another stitch on this side in the same spot. And I'm going to manipulate the thread with my thumb nail. See, I want that one there in the center. And then I want this one to be straight. And when I say straight, I mean perpendicular to the edge. So now I'm here. And see how that went around that corner? Hope you can see that. And now I can just go down this other side. I'm going to move this needle, or pin, I mean. Okay, so now I'm ready to go down this side. Usually when you do a corner with this stitch and with a lot of stitches, you can do 3 stitches in the corner, and that will take you around it. See? I'm going to go to the end of here, and then I'm going to see if I can find my little book real quick. I'm not going to take a lot of time trying to find it. But I think it's probably over here. Now I'm trying to paint. This is kind of an experiment for a couple of things, but mostly to see how this fleece works. I thought I was stretching it out, but I'm not. It's good. I just was looking at it crooked. So if it works, then that's a great way for me to use up some of that fleece. Is using it on book covers that I want to be puffy. Always turn your work. If you should never feel, your hands should never feel uncomfortable. That's what causes you to get carpal tunnel and different things. Okay. Now I'm back on some of this. I'm never going to get my voice back right. I'm back on some of this flimsy stuff. So I'm just going to give it a pin. Hi, Samantha. Rochelle, if you want some Happy Mail, you're going to have to send me your address because I can't find it anywhere. And somebody else, who was the other person? Hi, Kimberly. The only people's addresses I have access to are in the Fibsville Facebook or Beth Schuler's Facebook. I'm not on any others, so those are the only places I can find your address without you sending it to me. So I'll leave that up to you. Let me scroll up a little bit, see what I missed. I'm so glad to see all of you here. I really hadn't planned this. But I think I have found a time when I might start doing regular, scheduled live broadcasts. I think maybe on Tuesday mornings might work out, so I don't miss anybody else's. You already know this stitch, Jersey? Yeah, these flimsy fabrics are, where'd my pen go? Are a little more difficult to work around. So that might be a good idea for them to have a little bit bigger I don't know what to call it, a little bit more fabric under the where the fabrics cross over. That way they'll be sure to get in there, get caught in there. Okay, so now I also anticipate, of course, that these are going to end up being cut apart. This will end up being cut apart. I'm not too worried about it right now, but before I do that, I probably will go in with the sewing machine and give it a good stitching around where I'm cutting. That way any of these threads that are hand stitched on, they won't unravel. Okay, now give me just 1 second. I'm going to run right over here and see if that little book's there because I really like to show it to you. Found it. I love when I'm able to find things. This is the neatest little book. It's by Marsha Mitchler, J. Marsha Mitchler, and it's called Crazy Quilting, the Complete Guide. And it's, now see, I want to move out a little bit here. Okay. I'll move this aside for a minute. Okay. And it's not a big book, but it does have a lot of pages, 253 pages. But she shows a lot of different stitches, all these different stitches and different embroidery techniques you can use. Look at that. Hi, Arlene. Miss Gigi. Thanks for coming. So anyway, she shows, let me get to one. Look at that. You see it? There's a glare. It's silly light. All these beautiful stitches. This is all handwork. She goes, talks about a lot of things, working with different kinds of fabrics, silk, wool, how to use your color. Talks about the color wheel, tools, designs, and all kinds of things. Look at this. I gotta show it up close. See all those different little hand stitches? Now, back in the day, and I guess they still do today when they do them, they used all kinds of stuff. Corduroy, velvet, just everything. Laces. Look how simple these stitches are. And they look so pretty. Buttons. This is cute. It's like little buttons with the, it's like a bullion stitch with the, using it on the button like the buttonhole. Stitched in little flowers. Piece of lace. Now, on some of these, they have finished edges, and this is like a machine stitched one. So the pieces are actually machine stitched with finished edges, and there's different ways to do that. But you'll see a lot of them where they've just turned the edge under a little bit and then used the stitch to hold it down. Same thing here. This is an edge that's been turned under with a piece of lace under it, and then these little stitches are what holds it down. So you have to have a foundation piece, and then you layer the other things on top. And the foundation can be muslin or whatever you want to use. And I'm using this fabric I am using. And so on each, once she talks about all of that, on one side it shows a sample, a really pretty piece of a block. And it shows different things, like this one has metallic thread and charms and what have you. And then on this side, she shows an actual stitch. And let's see, I was going to show, and then it shows the instructions on how to do that. She talks about paper piecing, which I was talking about before. And on and on. So there's a lot of examples in here. This one's machine, frayed edges of fabric. And here's one where they put bias tape over the edges, so it looks sort of like a stained glass type of effect. And this one's got a lot of trims, and here's a flower, ribbon flower. So it's just really, really a cool book. It shows different techniques, different examples, and it's not just the same thing over and over. She really shows a lot of different things. Here she's actually got a altered book. So here's the cover. So anyway, if you like doing this kind of stuff, this is a neat little book to have. And I thought that somewhere in here, I thought she actually showed all the stitches. But I'm not, oh, well, yeah, here's some. Here it is. French knots, Italian knotted border stitch, four-legged knot stitch, colonial knot, herringbone. What's that one y'all were trying to do the other day? There's Lazy Daisy, oyster, variations. I forgot what that was y'all were trying to do the other day and you couldn't get it to work very well or something. A rose. I'll definitely be using that. Satin stitch, padded ends, V-stitches. So this is an excellent resource book. I just wanted to show that to y'all. I will definitely be using it for this project. Because you know what? You just can't remember all those stitches. You might remember it after you've reacquainted with it, but oh, look, a spider. Oh my gosh, look at that. That shows how to do a spider. So let me find one of these stitches. Where do they go again? I think they're right in the middle. Yeah. That's pretty neat. Try one of these. Try one of these. Trying to find something that's not too difficult. I'll just do Lazy Daisy stitch. I'm kind of familiar with that one. So where did my stuff go? Do you find this interesting at all, or I can do something different? Hi, Candy. I hope I haven't missed anyone. All right, let's see. Okay. Let's see, does this go from top to bottom or bottom to top? I think it goes from top to bottom, so I'm going to start here. Oh. Okay, Keisha. See you later. All right, then. Don't tell her that, Arlene. She's probably making up my invoices. All right. So you come up at the top point, you go back in right next to it, and then you decide how big you want your loop to be, and you come out that distance away. And let me do this again. Okay. Thanks, Arlene. Okay, so then you come up just a little bit away. Depends on how big you want your petal. It looks like a petal. And then you wrap it again, similar to how you do over here. And you pull it this way. So it's making a little petal. The thread wants to separate for some reason. And so I'm just going to keep doing that. I'm going to go just on the other side of this loop. So that's going to hold the loop in place. And then I'm going to come down again, wrap the thread for the petal, and snug it up. Now if you were doing this on something that wasn't raw and separate like this, you would do it on the center. So where you come in and go out, you would do it on this center line. But this is a raw edge, and there's two pieces. So I am going on the, I'm just slightly over, slightly over to this side, because this piece is on the top, and that way it's catching both pieces and it's not going to be flopping around. And you just continue to do that. And again, I'm using 3 pieces of floss. If you want your thread to be more prominent, to look heavier, then you can use however many strands of floss you want to use. There are 6. As I said, there are 6 in a strand of embroidery floss. And you just separate them out and use 1 or all 6. Lazy daisy, that's right, Teresa. See, that didn't come out. That didn't come out too well. Don't talk with pins in your mouth. Don't put pins in your mouth, people. Only if you're 60 years or older are you allowed to put pins in your mouth. Too late to change now. You know, the worst thing that ever happened to a sewing machine is they made it where they're so precise now that you can't sew over pins anymore without worrying about tearing up your machine. One of those old Singers, boy, those things, they will sew over pins. They'll sew over everything you put under them. But these newfangled ones, you gotta be careful. You gotta be careful. I've lost that pin. Oh, here it is. Get another one. Because it will break your needles. It will mess up your timing. It will do all kinds of bad things. So don't sew over your pins if you have a sewing machine that's, especially the computerized ones. Just is not a good idea. It drives me crazy. I put off for a long time getting a computerized machine because my old machines, I could take them apart and put them, you know, if they had something wrong and fix them for the most part. Not these new ones. I'm scared to death to touch it. Well, forevermore. Got my thing cockeyed. I used to do a lot of wedding sewing. We have some rather large families in our church, and they always seem to have a lot of girls. And I would always offer my sewing skills to help out with their wedding costs. So I've made wedding dresses, bridesmaids' dresses, vests for the men, you know, just whatever they needed, veils, stuff like that. And I really enjoy doing it, but I'm getting to the point where that stuff is hard. I haven't had any requests lately. I did have a mother of the bride. She came with her dress and needed some work done on it not too long ago. But that's a lot of work doing wedding stuff. Oh, yeah, those Singers. I love those old machines. I bought the first new sewing machine I ever had. It took a long time for me to get pregnant, so it was like 6 years after we were married that I finally got pregnant. And I was working at Sears as a Sears in the cashier department. They used to have, I don't know if they still do, they used to have a cashier department. People would come in there and cash their checks and pay their bills and all kinds of stuff. So I worked there for a while, and then I found out I was pregnant. And the plan had always been that whatever money I made working, that we didn't make any major bills with it or anything. Well, that doesn't look too good right there. I guess it'll be all right. Not my best work. So when I went to work, we always, agreed that when I got pregnant, that I would quit because I grew up with my mother working and never being around. She worked 2 and 3 jobs trying to take care of 4 kids by herself. And so, I didn't want my daughter or my child to have that. So I always had planned to not work once if I could. So, we just didn't use any of the money I made working to live on. We always used it for something that we normally wouldn't be able to have. Uh, Instead of like making a bill, we would just pay for it. So whenever I found out I was pregnant, the first thing I did was I went and bought baby furniture and I bought a new sewing machine. So by the time I quit working to have the baby, then I had a new sewing machine and we had all the baby furniture paid for. And that was the last time I worked for about 10 years outside the home. And that Singer sewing machine that I had bought, it was a fancy one. It had all the cams, it had a big box of cams for the designs and just, all kinds of stuff. It would even do a little bit of embroidery, like a monogram or something. And I thought that was just going to be the best thing I ever had. And that sewing machine, I wore it out. It actually had 2 motors, and I burnt out both motors using it. I just wore it out. I used it every single day for so many years. And that thing was heavy and it didn't ever bounce or anything. I love that machine. If I could have that machine back right now, I'd take it in a second. But it wore out and it wasn't, worth getting it fixed because it was expensive. There's nothing wrong with old stuff, I'm telling you. Unless there's a reason to buy something new. I'm trying to do a cross stitch now. I'm doing the first half of a cross stitch on here, just so these stitches aren't the same next to each other. I don't know. It's a little hard doing this with these fabrics so loose. I think if I did it again, even if it was on fleece, I think I would do some stitch witchery or something under it to at least hold it in place so just the edges were loose. I don't know. I have to think about it. I could even do that now if I wanted to take all these pieces up, but I'm not going to do that. I'm not that excited. Oh, Arlene, I need to do that also pretty soon. I really had no plans to do this today, but you get the bug and you think, oh, maybe somebody would like to see this. So hi, Janet from across the sea. Janet from across the sea. When I want to relax, I always go watch Janet's videos because her voice and her sweet nature just make me relax. When I want to get excited, I go watch Jerseys. I watch Laura's channel because she gets me excited and wound up wanting to do things because she's just so enthusiastic about everything. So, you watch different people for different reasons. Thanks, Janet. I'm just trying. I'm trying something. I'm trying to do this on fleece to see how it will work. And I'm using some fabrics that I got from Melody. And they're kind of slinky fabrics. That's the word I was looking for a while ago. Slinky fabrics, and they don't stay in place very well. So I don't know how it's gonna work out. But I'm trying it. I'm gonna change colors. This is all from cross stitch days. I can't do that anymore. Can't see it well enough. And a magnifier just drives me crazy. I have a really nice magnifier glasses that I can use over my glasses, but it just gets in the way. Teresa, well, got fuzz in my mouth. I'm making this. What I was hoping to make it for is to use it on a sewing journal on the cover, not the whole cover, but like just the front. So we'll see how that goes, how it all works out. But this is obviously much longer than what I need for that. But you know, depends. I might do some of this by hand, and I might do some of it by machine. I don't know. I haven't decided. I keep losing those pins. You know what? My camera is not where you can see what I'm doing, is it? Let me move it. Hold on. Don't get sick. There. Maybe that'll be better. It'll look awesome if I get done, but I'm not doing a very good job on my stitching here. I'm going to do some more. Do a little bit more blanket stitch. For a bit, see how that goes. I'm trying to think of what stitches I really like to do. Feather stitch might be nice. It's sort of like watching somebody crochet. It can get really boring. Oh, I forgot my. Yeah, I definitely think if I do this again that I'm going to use some stitch witchery or something under here. I can't think of what it's called. You know, that you iron in there to hold it together. All right, now the colors look real pretty on the screen. I have so much cotton fabric because I used to do a lot of linen types or towels and stuff like that, decorated towels and things for the kitchen and embroidered stuff with the machine embroidered. I have an embroidery machine. I've had it since about 2006, so it's not the newest model. But I've thought several times about getting another one. But for the way I use it, I don't use it commercially, and it works fine for what I do, and I know how to use it. So every time I think about it, I think, no, I don't need that. I got something I like and it works, and I'm just going to keep it. The only real big difference, I think, would be, now it's just it's a Singer model, and the largest area it will embroider is like 5 by 7, and for me that's big enough. I can do that. I've used it a lot. I've got thousands and thousands of design files, and some that I haven't even used. I used to only buy them when they were on sale from this particular company that I really like, and so a lot of them, and freebies, so a lot of things I haven't used. Now I've had a Cricut almost since they came out, cutter, and I still have it, a big one, that when they first came out with the biggest one, and I put off for a long time getting a newer one. I was kind of waiting for it to die on its own. Janet wants to know if you want her to post any roof there. Sure, Janet, that's fine. This is probably what I'm going to be doing. It might be a little boring, but they're welcome to come. I might switch out and do something else in a little bit, but this is pretty much it. I might go over and get my hexies out and show them a little bit, besides these little ones that I just showed. If y'all decide you're getting bored, tell me I'd do something different, and I will. I mean, it's not like I'm short of stuff to show you. My husband calls this area down here Hobby Lobby, because he says anything Hobby Lobby sells you could find here. But I'm really trying to do away with some things. Not just supplies, but things that are made that, since I'm not actively physically selling anymore, Now I've got Keisha. She's doing a great job selling some things for me. And that leaves me with, all I have to do is package it up and send it to her, and she goes to town with it. So that's great. But I'm actually trying to get to the point where nothing new comes in unless something goes out. And, the only way to do that is just determine that's what you're going to do and do it. I have so many things that I've collected over the years of crafting, and it's all good stuff. It's all usable stuff. And if I had the time and left in my lifetime, another 50 years, I probably would use it all. But, at this point, it's better to let somebody else have fun with some of it. And I really do want to get to the point where everything has a place. Right now, I can look from where I'm sitting and see a couple of piles of things that need to be sorted and found a place for or gotten rid of. And I have to admit, I'm a piler. Is this Janet's birthday? Didn't know that. Oh, no, hurry back is what you're saying. Okay. I thought it was her birthday. I'm thinking, oh, no, that would be great. So anyway, I'm just, the reason I started journaling or making journals is to get rid of some stuff. And I found out how much I really liked it. And I really like it. So since I guess I've only been making journals for maybe just a year. Maybe a year ago is when I started. But when I started pulling stuff out to use, I found like 20 legal pads and different colors and boxes of envelopes and manila cardstock that I had piles of, because when I used to work, the office I last worked in was a one woman office. We didn't have a lot of walk-in trade. It was a construction office, and most of everything was done by phone, or the guys went out in the field and talked to people and stuff. So I was there by myself a lot. But anyway, I don't know why I said that. What I started to say was, I used to, when I would have to go pick up printing stuff like time cards and stuff like that from the printers, it was a small shop, and she always had boxes of cutoffs that she was getting rid of. So when I went in there, I'd ask her, you have any paper you're getting rid of? And she said, sure. So I'd load up a couple of boxes in the back of my car and got all kinds of stuff. I'm still using some of it. But I think probably the best thing I got from her is the manila cardstock cutoff. It's like a manila folder, but it's strips. It's long strips. And I use that to make a lot of my tags. I'll be sad when it's all gone, but I'm using it up, Uh-oh, look at there. That didn't get caught. I'll have to do something there. I'm going to go ahead and go all the way. Yep, that wasn't under there far enough. Those kinds of things happen. That's when you get creative. I usually don't mind things when they mess up, because that's when I get the most creative. I like to. I've always seemed to have been a good figure outerer. I might not come up with the best ideas or the newest thing, but I can sure take them and run with them. And that's just as fun. See what you can do that's different with the same idea. Yeah, Rochelle, I know what you mean. But I'm telling you, doing these journals, I have used more good stuff and felt good using it. Not sad to see it go. When we moved 3 years ago, I got rid of, oh gosh, I think we decided it was about 500 or 600, maybe it was 600. I think it was 600 sheets of 12 by 12 scrapbook paper. Now, I'm not a scrapbooker. I have never really been a scrapbooker. I've done like 2 scrapbooks that were for special reasons. And other than that, any scrapbooking I've done has been digital. I like to do the digital stuff, but I don't do that anymore. But I like, the scrapbook. I have all the scrapbooking supplies, but I don't use them for scrapbooking. I use them for other things. So, but that was a lot of paper. And I tried to get rid of the paper that, I kept the heavy stuff and the double-sided stuff and the Christmas stuff, because I thought, well, I'll keep all that. because it might be harder to come by later on. But I thought all the thin paper that, I would think, oh, well, this is thin. It's not that great. Now I wish I had the thin paper because it makes really good pages. But I'm still using up what I didn't get rid of. Trying not to buy a lot of scrapbooking paper. If I get anything, I try to get something that's really different, like Melody's papers. I got some of her papers. They're really pretty. But I am going through and things that I think I'm just not that excited about this, doing something else with them to get rid of them. I don't want to leave all this for my husband or my daughter or, and you know why? Because they might not try to sell it. They might not get the money out of it that went into it. And you know how much money goes into it. If you sit down and you figure it out, oh my gosh, I bet there's $10,000 here in my basement of craft stuff. That would not surprise me at all. Not at all. Because I like to do so many different things that, and I always try to buy, if I'm going to buy a tool, I try to buy the best I can afford at the time and the thing that's going to give me the most use, I'm always happy when I can find more than one use for something. Melody, I might have to stay away from your sales. You know what I'm saying? You always have stuff I like. Did I get that red packet? I'm sure I did. I have a red and black. I forgot what you call them. Those sets, with the paper and the fabric and trims and everything in them. And it is gorgeous. I was looking at it yesterday, but I put it back because I don't want to work on it yet. I got some other ones I want to do first. But it is so pretty. It's going to be so pretty. Hi, Bella. Hi, Bella. What are you doing? What? Well, she's been over on the other side of the basement and looked out the door and seen something over there. So now she's whining at me because she wants to go out. But she can't just go out in the yard. She has to be in the fence. And the fence is upstairs. So she's just going to have to suffer with it. All she's going to do is go out there and bark. Bark, 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 bark. She loves to bark at people. No, you can't. You can't go. Not right now. Not right now. And I don't dare let her outside the fence because she's a schnauzer and she'll put her nose down and follow a trail, and that's it. She doesn't even know that you exist. She just takes off. And that's the nature of the dog that breed. So, that's what you expect. But she's gotten loose twice. Thanks, Melody. Yeah, I do some resin too. I haven't done any in a little while. I need to do some more. But your resin stuff is amazing. I just do little things. So you can kind of see here, these stitches look a lot better than these. And that's because these two fabrics aren't quite as slippery. And it's easier to do it nicely. Yeah, Rochelle, it is. When I gave the paper away, my granddaughter was in a private school, and I just donated it to them. They were tickled to death to get it. But the paper was hard to get rid of for me. But I promised my husband that I would, because he said, "How can you use this much paper?" And I always used to buy packs. I'd wait till the $20 packs went on sale and buy it in packs. So I always had a lot of paper that would match, but then you have all those packs. I still got a tall paper storage thing that's full of paper, but some of it's stuff that I'm not crazy about. I really need to go sort through it and pull some stuff out to use. I'm going to find another stitch to try here in a minute. So this kind of stuff seems to be really popular right now. It took me forever to figure out what slow stitching was that everybody calls it. I never called it that, but I guess I always called it handwork or needlework or whatever. So it kind of surprised me when it was called something else. Wow, that fabric is stiff, hard, dense. That's what the word I want. Okay. I don't know. I hope this works out the way I have in mind to do it. If not, I'll use it on something else. But I just thought it would make a pretty cover for a sewing journal. Now, whether it's worth the time that it takes to do it, I don't know. But it'll be a journal that gets sold. So, sometimes you got to think about that. If you're doing it for yourself, you don't mind how long it takes. But if you're doing it to sell, you have to think about it a little bit more. Although, I do stuff, I sell stuff just so it doesn't sit around. It's not like I'm not trying to make a living doing it like some people do, fortunately. This little piece right here is troublesome. Sorry, I keep getting out of. Here I am at the corner again. I'm going to put three stitches going around this corner. really like quilting, but I like the piecing, hand piecing, and I also like hand quilting. But my goodness, I just can't do it anymore. My hands get so cramped. So now I'm trying to learn how to do it on the machine. And it definitely takes some practice. I really appreciate people who can free motion quilt because it takes a little practice. It's like your sewing machines run amok. It just goes every which way, not just straight in one line. It goes every way. So it takes a little getting used to. I don't normally like huge projects, long projects, and quilts take a lot of time. They really do, if they're done right. I've quilted a couple that my husband's grandmother made the tops for, and the tops were made with. I used to, when we were younger, I used to make all my daughter's clothes, all of them, and I would take all the scraps and give to his granny because she would use, she'd piece quilts. That's all she did all day long, piece quilts and quilt. So I'd give those to her. So whenever she passed away, I ended up with a couple of her quilt tops. Now the daughters, they took all the really nice ones and all the finished quilts. And my mother-in-law managed to get a few tops that had not been finished because, they didn't want those. So at some point she gave those to me. Well, one of them was made from all the scraps that I had given her from the clothes I'd made for my daughter. So one year I finished it. I, put it together and quilted it by hand and everything for my daughter for Christmas. So that was pretty cool. And then the other quilt top that I had from her, I also finished it for myself. So that was really neat. She was quite the prolific quilter. First time I ever met her, she was already in her 90s, I think. Excuse me. She was already in her 90s, and she lived by herself. Well, she had 2 little chihuahuas, and she had asthma. She lived in a lead mine town. All his dad's side of the family worked in the lead mines and drove the lead mine trucks, and worked in the factory and all this kind of stuff. And all of them on his dad's side died from some type of cancer, even the women, because they all lived. I think it's because they all lived in the town. But she lived by herself with the 2 little dogs, and she had asthma, and I'm sure part of that was from that. She didn't smoke, but she sure did like her snuff. So when she was quilting, she sat in a big chair, and um, there was a gas stove right by her chair, and beside her chair was a huge coffee can with a tea towel laid over it, dish towel laid over it. And she'd stitch for a while, and then she'd bend over, lift up the towel off the top of that can, and spit. Oh, goodness sakes. But her house was very small, and I'm sure it was like a row house from days ago when the mines were really, going strong, and they built all these little houses that look just the same. They're just little cracker boxes. But she, her whole living room, that's what it was. It was her chair, the wood stove, TV, a radio, and quilt hanging from the ceiling. and her quilt hung from the ceiling on just pieces of, strips of cotton. I cannot stay in this camera. I am so sorry. We're gonna fix this. And she would. It was a quilt frame, rectangular, and on the corners she had bolts that it was bolted together. And when she didn't want the quilt that she was working on hanging down in the middle of the room, she would just wind the strips up around those bolts on the corner, and it would just go up towards the ceiling until it stopped, until she wound it as far as she wanted. So that was her living room. And the first time I went to meet her, that was before we were married. And my husband only dated me. He never dated anyone else. I was the only one. I warned him, but he didn't take my advice. I guess it's lasted okay, but the first time I met her, we weren't married yet, and I just thought she was the crabbiest old lady I'd ever met. I mean, she hardly talked to me. It was just, it wasn't great. And I thought, oh, great, how am I going to do this, when we get married? What am I going to do? And so it took the third time, 2 times I visited. And the third time, I asked her something about her quilts. That woman changed into a different person. She had to show me every single quilt she had in the house. And she had a chifforobe. I don't know if you know what a chifforobe is. If you're from the country, that's what they called it. It's like a cabinet that has it's like a closed cabinet that has a place where you can hang stuff on one side usually, and then the other side might have drawers, And she had that chifforobe, and I mean, it's like 7 or 8 feet tall, and she had it piled inside with quilts, finished quilts. She took every single quilt out and laid it on the bed and showed it to me. And after that, we were good buddies. But my husband worked at a furniture factory before he went in the service, and they always had, fabric scraps, and they also did mattress covers and had mattress cover scraps, which is, pretty slick. Not really something you would expect to wash. But she would wash it and use it on the quilt backs. Everything we gave her, she would use up. I think she lived to be about 96, I want to say. I wish she was here today. There's a lot of stuff I'd like to talk to her about. Hi, Christina. Oh, Melody sent you. Thanks for subscribing. Christina, if you're not on any Facebook groups that I'm on with my address, well, I'll just tell you there's only 2 of them that my address is on. One is Beth Schuler's Facebook page, and the other is Friends in the Box Facebook page. If you're not on either of those and you want some happy mail, just send me your address and I will send you some. I'm trying to send some to everybody, first-time visitors, since I'm fairly new to doing lives. Okay. Now, I was going to find a new, wait a minute, I'm just going to go ahead and use up this thread over here real quick somewhere, right here maybe. And then when this is gone, I'm going to find I'm going to go over and get the my other hexy stuff and show you some of that. I think you might be interested. Probably more interested in watching me do this. Yeah, I certainly would love to have her around now so I could talk to her. She sure could be a crabby lady, but I guess she came by it. They've had hard times. I'm doing here. I'm just going to do a little stitch. So I know a lot of you do paper stuff, paper crafts, paper arts. I call it paper arts. What other kinds of things do you really like to do when you're not working on paper? I know some of you do things like this. You found the subject? Yes, that's right, Jane. I did. I wasn't about to start chewing snuff, though, or whatever they call that. Sniffing stuff. Snuff. Snuff. I can say it. Really grossed me out at first because she would just lean over and let her fly in that coffee can. It was so funny. Her little dogs, little chihuahuas, they both had asthma also. And I heard later on that that's not unusual, that I guess the dog gets it from the person or something. I'm not really sure how that works, but or if it's even true. You know, sometimes country folks, they have a lot of ideas about things, but that's what I heard. And they certainly had it just as much as she did. I can just see her. My husband and his father and his grandmother all looked very much alike. And they all look like Indians in their features. They've got the nose and the brow and everything that makes you think of a Native American Indian. And my husband is just the spitting image of his dad. But my husband is 6'2", and his dad was about 5'7" or something like that. I don't even think he was as tall as me. I'm 5'6", so he was probably just a little shorter than me. But other than that, they look exactly alike. And they all three look alike in the face. But I can, and their mannerisms are so much alike. I remember Granny sitting there peeling potatoes one day when we came over. She was making green beans and pork chops or some kind of pork and potatoes in a big pot. So she was peeling potatoes, and I could just see her hand, the way she would peel. You know, it just was a certain way she did it, and slow. It wasn't anything fast about it. Now my father-in-law, her son, he would cook sometimes, and he's passed a long time ago. But he would cook, and he would make one of the favorite things that he made was wilted lettuce. Have any of you ever had wilted lettuce with bacon and green onions, vinegar? He would make that, and I'm telling you, it was so good. Oh my goodness. And he had the same mannerisms, just like his mom. And my husband, I've noticed, whenever he's doing something like that, he has the same mannerism in the hands, and their hands all look alike. So it's you know, it's pretty cool to see that. I don't know any of those kinds of things about my family because we didn't, you know, we weren't that kind of family. But my in-laws always treated me so well. And my father-in-law, I called him Pop. I was the only one that called him Pop. His name was Virgil, but everybody called him Bo, B-O. I called him Pop, and I'm the only one that called him Pop. But he was the only real father figure I ever had that meant anything to me. And I sure miss him sometimes. One time, I've never been a good cook. And one time I made some kind of dish and it had some beans in it or something. I don't remember what it was. But he he had a bowl of it, and he hadn't said anything. I says, "Well, Pop, how'd it taste?" He said, well, it's nothing I'd buy at the restaurant. Oh, gosh. I came out one time with a new dress. I stayed at their house while my husband was in boot camp, and then we got married and moved away. So I was in their house for a couple months before we got married. And I had made a dress, and I came out one day and I said, what do you think about this, Pop? He said, well, I think you need to add some more to the bottom of it. It's just a bit short. And of course, in the 70s, that's when everything was so short. But he just, he didn't let me be left out. If my mother-in-law got shirts for the boys in town or something and came back with them, as soon as he saw what she had or didn't have, he'd say, where's the girls? Where's the girl's shirt? She'd have to go back to town, get me a shirt. It was, yeah, he was my pop. Made him happy just for everybody else to be doing what they like to do. My husband has a lot of good qualities from his dad. Yes, Christina, that's basically what it is. It took me so long to figure out what slow stitching was. Well, that little stitch that I was just doing right then was really nothing. It was just a little stitch to hold the edge down. But I was going to look up another one and see what I can find. And then after that, I'm going to go get some other things to look at. I was showing this book. It's really a nice little book called Crazy Quilting, The Complete Guide. And it's by J. Marcia Mitchler. It's pretty cool. It's got a lot of stuff. So I don't want to do anything very complicated today. Some of this stuff's pretty cool. I should look at the pictures. That's what I should look at. Oh, that's cute. It's like little flowers with ribbon, leaves, little French knots. You can tell this stuff takes a lot of time. Can you imagine making a whole quilt like this? I don't think I would do it. Don't think I would. This is what I was wanting to do, something like this. How do we do that? Let's figure this out. Fern stitch. I like that. That looks pretty easy. I'm going to try that. Let's get out and do color. Fern stitch. That sounds like it should be green, doesn't it? Hi, Tammy. Hope I haven't missed anyone saying hi. If I do, I'm sorry. Okay, let's see. What color green do I want? I think I want a bright green to show up. Unless it's too close to the... Nope. I don't want to have it too close to the turquoise. Wait a minute. I have a little winder thing that you can wind these, excuse me, wind these little doohickeys with. Takes forever. One of the better things I ever purchased, I have certain things that, you buy certain things and you think, this is going to be so helpful. This is going to be so good. And you buy it, spend your hard-earned money on it, and then you get it and it's like, you don't use it because either you don't like what it does or it's too complicated or it takes too much time to get it out or whatever. But some of the things I've purchased that I've lost my needle again. Where'd it go? some of the things that I've purchased that I've really liked. Searching. I'll be darned. Just had it. Anyway, let me finish what I was saying. Some of the things I've purchased that I've really was a really good purchase. One is my yarn winder. I use it for my crochet thread. I use it for yarn. And now they're about $35 or something. But if you do a lot of yarn work, they are totally worth it. And it makes the yarn into a little round, flat ball. Oh, no, that's not it. So, you know, it can sit, they can stack really easily. Well, I don't know where that needle went. It's up here someplace, but it's hiding from me. And like I said, if you do a lot of stuff with yarn or even crochet thread, where you like maybe buy crochet thread from bundles or whatever, and in little rolls, and you want to make them all nice and neat, it's a good way to do it. Well, this needle is huge. Wish I knew where that went. So that's one thing I've bought that is a very good product. Here's another one. Can you see this? This is rubber on the bottom, but inside it's a magnet. So you can put pins in it or anything that's magnetic in there, and you don't have to worry about them falling out. This came from Harbor Freight. This is really a mechanic's tool. You know, you put screws and stuff in so you don't lose them. And these are really handy for that. So that works good. What else? Can't think of anything right off here. I have to look around. I like my punches, but you can do without punches because you can just cut things out. But punches are nice to have. I think I'm going to do this stitch here on this edge of here. Get these smoothed out. That really looks pretty on the camera, doesn't it? Wow. The scraps of material, Christina, I got from Melody. And yeah, Melody, I can. I'll put that on my list. Melody does little packets of fabrics, all different kinds of fabrics, and she does them like in color coordinated, and they're bigger pieces than this. I've just cut snips off of them, and they're usually about this big, about the size of a sheet of copy paper, maybe a little bit smaller, maybe half that. And I love it because like I said a while ago, I have a lot of fabric, but not this kind of fabric. This is silkier, just different things. And it's kind of neat because I don't have to go searching myself. You can go search out Goodwill and places like that and find the same kind of stuff, but she's already done it. She's got all this great stuff, and you just have to get it from her. She's done the legwork. I don't know where she gets the stuff, but I'm assuming that's part of the places. She probably goes to estate sales and stuff too, which I can't do. I'm not able to walk and stand for, excuse me, for a long time, so I can't do that. So it works out great. Now, let me see. How do I do this? Fern stitch. Okay. Looks like it starts here. Now, any of these ends, like this one, it's not quite caught in there. I'm going to put stuff over top of it, so it really won't matter too much. I mean, I'm trying to catch everything, but if I miss something, I mean, I can always, put something over that and it'll be fine. Not a big deal. Or embroider a flower or something like that. So now let's see. See how I've rolled this up so I can get my hands in here? Now, if your stuff is too big and you can't roll it, you can still do it like this and still have your fingers up here. But if you can roll it, it's even better because it's easier to get a hold of if it's your actual, if you're holding it with your actual finger. Okay, so this says this is a fern stitch. Let's see this. So you come up at the beginning and you go down a little ways, go in, and then you're going to come out to the side at an angle. So there's the first part. Here's the second part. Okay, then you just go over evenly across from this one. You go down. You come back up at the bottom of that first stitch. Then you pull. And this thread is what's going to catch that, the bottom of that. Ta-da! Oh, that's pretty easy. Okay. I got some, I'm going to trim these fuzzies over here. I think if I were going to do a crazy quilt project, a real project, you know, I think I would do the ones where the edges are turned under. I think it looks nicer. But for what I'm doing, I kind of wanted the edges raw. I don't know why, just thought I did. So now you go down again, and you just keep doing that. So you go down again, down in, come over here, and I assume you want to keep your stitches fairly, you know, this even, so it doesn't look too wonky. Now I've got mostly straight lines on here to stitch, but you can do these stitches around curves and stuff too. I just didn't put any curves. I just, you know, then you come back up. This needle is way too thick. I'm going to have to get a different one or find my other one. Where did that thing go? And when you pull it, there you go. Cute. Christina, she's also usually at the sales every month that Keisha has. So if you haven't been to those, you might want to check that out. The first weekend of every month. There are several of us that sell at the market. But I'm sure I think it's hold on, I'll tell you what her website is. Where is that? I just had it somewhere. It is Melody Made, MELODIMADE.com. So you could probably contact her there too if you don't see her on here. She was here a minute ago. Where am I? Okay. I like the stitch. Could be a little smaller. Could make it a little smaller. But I'm going to keep on as I've started, so. Except I'm getting bigger. Where is this pink or purple fuzz coming from? I'm going to take that out because it's too big. I'll take it back to the one before. I have this pink or this purple fuzz flying around somewhere. Came off of one of these, probably this purple right here. I'm not going to, I'm probably going to stop about 1 o'clock. I'll have to take care of the dog and get some laundry done, I guess. Probably a good idea. Okay, now where am I? Okay. Yeah, that's better. You know, if you want to try this kind of stuff, but you think, you know, you can't keep it even or whatever, you can always mark it. You can always use a disappearing marker, mark you some little dots so that you don't go astray with what you're doing. So you could just like dot 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 dot, you know, so that it's where your needle would come in and out. There's nothing wrong with doing that. Whatever it takes to get you where you want to be. A lot of people don't believe in using what they call cheaters, you know. But hey, if there's part of it you don't like to do and you can accomplish it by using a tool, then I say go for it. You know, I like to paint, I like to draw, I like to color, I like to do all of that. And I can do the basic drawing, like if I want to do a portrait, I can do the drawing. I can do it myself, freehand, because I'm able to do it. It may not be as good as somebody else's, but I'm able to do it. But you know what? That's not the part I like doing. I like doing the coloring part. I want to get to the coloring part. That's what I'm about. So if that means I have to use some kind of tracing system or whatever to get to the coloring part faster, that's what I'll do. And I don't see a thing wrong with it, you know. So now some people do think there's something wrong with it, but no, I don't. So I just do what I like. Yes, this is called a fern stitch. Fern stitch. Here's the picture. Picture looks much nicer than what I'm doing. And I thought there was a picture of it. Well, there's not an exact one. There's probably one in here someplace, but I don't see it right off. It's easy though, as long as you keep your. I'm noticing you got to watch and keep your side stitches slanted. See right here, you can see this one. Where is it? This one got a little too straight. It made it almost look like a cross. It needs to be this way. So you kind of got to watch that. But otherwise, it's pretty simple. I like it. Looks like little chicken feet. So get yourself a book of some kind. I mean, any kind of embroidery stitch book will work. Just, you know, do the stitch along a line and there you go. Oops. And see, let's see, it's only like 3 steps. It's pretty simple. And this will be great to like, I can see doing this and then like putting a little bead along there so it looks like a little flower. That would be cute. I am going to use some beads on here eventually, but I figured they may be last. Not like I don't have any beads, people. Oh, my word. I do want to do some bead embroidery on here at some point, but it takes a lot of time, and I mean, you know, I couldn't I don't believe I could do like a whole. What did I do? Did that wrong? I don't believe I could do a whole piece live because it's kind of like this, watching somebody stitch one bead at a time. But I would like to show the process. Because you could use it on a lot of different things. You could use it on this, same kind of stitches. You could make jewelry with it. Just, you know, it's pretty usable for these kinds of things. I'll make this curve a little bit. Here I am, out of the way again. You know what would be cool? I wish that when you're doing a live broadcast, that when everybody chats, I wish that chat would somehow be audible. Wouldn't that be nice? You wouldn't have to miss things. You could, every time you'd hear somebody you needed to say something about, you'd hear it. That would be cool, I think. Even if it was a mechanical voice, it still would be a neat thing. Yeah, these look nicer if you make sure you do a really nice slant on the feather part. It's looking good though. I like it. Come on, you. Okay, there we go. So it's one, you go down, and you come up at a slant. Pull that snug because that's what pulls the one above it down. Then you come over here about the same distance, still at a slant. Come back out at the bottom of that stitch, or try to. And this just goes under there. Isn't that cute? I love to learn new things, whether it's a technique or whatever. I used to say if there's ever an apocalypse, I want to be the one who knows how to do all the stuff. So somebody needs a basket. Yeah, I can do that. Or somebody needs a shirt. Yeah, I can do that. Or, you know, whatever. Well, me and this pen are going to fight. Yep, there's all different ways to do stuff. And I really do like being able to know how to do a lot of different types of things. And then I like being able to use them together in a new way. So when I make jewelry, I like beading. I like to be able to use, and I like to do resin, and I like to do polymer clay. So I like to make the focal points out of resin or polymer clay, and use bead embroidery to bead them on, and then use my few metal working skills or whatever, to make the chain or whatever I'm going to do, and then have it all together as a whole, work together. That way I get to use a lot of the things I know how to do. It's fun. And I'm just naturally curious about how things are made and how things are done. It gets me in trouble sometimes. Okay, just stay in one spot. Keisha's been selling my stuff, and some of it has been stockpiled more or less because I quit doing jewelry shows because I wasn't able physically to do them, and different things like that. So, I don't do any craft shows anymore. So I have leftover things that I've had for a while. So it's nice that they're getting shared by people who like them, and it kind of makes space for me to do some new things. All I did was beading for, oh gosh, for several years, and then when we moved, I packed it all up, and it was packed up for quite a long time before it got unpacked. And I haven't gone back to beading, so it's been about 3 years since I've done any beading, and I've been wanting to do some here lately. So I'll get back to that. I kind of go in cycles, I'll do one thing a lot for a while, then I'll do another thing, and then I'll go back. But beading, I stayed on beading for quite a long time, and I'm still not done with it. I would like to do some metal. I've got tools to do some metalworking stuff, but I had a problem with my back, and my shoulder was frozen, and blah 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 blah. So sometimes you have to just step back from things. But I still have all of my tools, and I still want to do some, so probably be doing some of that in the future. Oh, okay. So this is coming along. Coming along. What is that? Oh, I thought I'd found my needle, but I didn't. Leave that. So once all the sides are sewn down, so we've got all this right here is done enough. So you can then you can pull out the basting, which it's just big stitches with a knot at one end, so it can just pull out real easy like that. And then if you want to add things, you can add on there. Now, normally, when I'm putting these together, I would cut the center out after they're sewn together, after the hexes are sewn together. But I'm not going to worry about it on this one. I'm going to probably put a bead in there anyway. But I want to just sew one of these down so you can see how that goes. And then I'll have a few minutes to show you something else. Oh, this one? That's actually green. You can't tell on the, it's like a light green. That's called a fern stitch. Whoops. Okay, I'm going to put this here. I'll turn it like that. And I'm just going to do a tiny whip stitch. So I'm going to go underneath, come out the point. I'm using red thread, and this is just regular. Is this quilting thread? No, this is just regular. Oh no, this is machine quilting thread, but you know, you don't have to worry about that. You can just use regular thread. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to stitch around the edge of it. So I come out the piece, then I go down in and come out just a little ways, and then I just pick up a tiny little, let me see, a tiny little section of the piece. I'm going to do the same thing again. Go under, go a little ways, pick up the little stitch. I mean, you only need a couple of threads, really, of that fabric, and go pull it. So this is how it looks. You don't see the stitch. It's down inside. And if you match your color well enough, and it really depends on what color you're stitching. I'm using red thread because this is red, and it's hiding it pretty well. Sometimes you have to use the color of what you're stitching it onto for it to hide. But that's all it is. You're going sort of underneath the patch, the piece. Not way out here, but you know, like almost under it. Go down, and when you go down, you go right under where the stitch is, where this thread is. You go down, pick up a little ways, and then come back up, pick up a couple stitches, pull it out. So see what's happening is this stitch is just straight on this little tiny edge, so you don't see it. So I'm going to do that again. I'm going to go down, come out the point this time because that's where I'm at. Pull it. I'm going to go down. I'm right here at the point. I'm going to go over a little ways, come up, a couple of threads worth of fabric. Down, go over a little ways, come up, a couple threads. And you just have to judge how close to make these stitches as to what you're doing. Normally, when I'm putting the hexies together, these little bitty ones, my stitches are closer together because that's all that holds them together. So, you know, you have to put more stitches. But on this, I'm basically appliquing this down to the, I'm using it as an applique. And see now, right now, this is why I can't do this very long. My thumb, because I have arthritis in my thumb right here, it's starting to hurt. But part of that's because you get a death grip on it. You don't have to have a death grip on it. So, you know, I can just hold it lightly now. So I go down, go over a little bit, pick up a couple of stitches or a couple of threads. And you want your stitches to be snug, you know, pulled kind of snug, but not so tight that it makes it pucker up. And because of the way this little hexie is made, it looks kind of puffy after it's appliqued. So once you get going, it goes pretty fast, you know, once you get used to how you do it. And I hold underneath, I'm actually holding this hexie between these two fingers and my thumb, and I'm actually using my thumb, and it doesn't matter if your nail's long or not, I'm actually using my thumb to hold that in place so it doesn't wrinkle or, you know, get out of place. And that's basically what it is. You're just appliquing, just like you would do an applique with an invisible stitch. Now, there's other ways to do applique. You can do applique with this kind of stitch, with a blanket stitch around it if you want it to show. I could have done that on here, done like little tiny blanket stitches. But I just wanted it to, this stitch to be invisible. Hi, Donna. Oop. So this is just a little thing to put on here, but it's going to look really cute. It's going to make, you know, a nice little design. Okay, so see, that's so invisible, I couldn't even tell. Yeah, that's where I started. So in this case, I can just go to the back and make a knot, because my back's available. This fleece is working pretty well for this, for what I'm doing, but it does, I think it does stretch a little bit, especially on the edges, so you kind of have to be careful with it. So there's a little hexie, and I could put a button there. A button sounds cute. Where's my buttons? Excuse me. You find a little one. Oh, there's a red button. I don't want red though. Oh, there's a tiny one. I like that one. I don't know, maybe a bigger one. We'll use that one. So now I can decide how I'm going to do this. Do I want it to just look like a regular button, or do I want it to have a little bow, or what? I think I want it to have a little black bow. Let's see if I have any black thread. Yep. Can't even tell what I did here. What in the world? Okay, go back. I don't want to mess with you. Nope. Gee, I don't know who wound these up. These must have been some that I did not wind, because I don't do them that way. All right. Here we go. I thought I'd lost my needle again. And I'm just going to use 6 strands of floss. Okay, now. Well, I tell you what, this stuff is so busy, you can't find anything. You have to look and look for it. It's right in front of your face. I'm just trying to put my needle up so that it's it needs to go for the button. Okay, needle. Okay, so I've got it on here. Just going to tie it. And I don't think I'm going to make a bow. I think I'll just cut it. There. That's cute. What do you think? There's one little section that's almost done. I got to stitch here. Oh, who's having marshmallows? Puppy marshmallows. Oh, I think I'll have that when I go upstairs. Yummy. Okay, I'm going to show you one more thing, but I'll have to go get it from the other side of the room. So hold on, I'll be right back. I had to find the right drawer. I have one of those roll around drawer things that's got all the color drawers in them, and I use one. I have a couple of them. I use one of them for my hexies. So this is what I was talking about earlier, the little blocks. Let me come out a little bit so you can see. Okay. So this is one of the sets that I finished. And I was using up scraps. I was totally using up scraps. So I would pick the ones that I thought would go together, and then big pieces of fabric that I had stashed, I would use that for the backs. Now these are shaped a little different. See, they have a little round part. This is a different, it's done the same way. It's just a different shape. And it's there's a little more work to do in these, but they're really, really cute. Look at this. Aren't those adorable? They look really sweet. So, you know, I just picked out colors that I thought would go together out of my scraps, and I had a lot of scraps. And this was really a great way to use them up. And I think I ended up with maybe, oh wow, I don't know, maybe even 10 sets of, or could it be more, sets of hexie blocks like this, and in all different colors. And most of them are the real hexies like these, this shape. But then there are some like this that have the curve. So as I was saying before, if you've never seen this before, this is actually paper piecing. And you see I use different colors thread. It doesn't matter because it doesn't show. But you keep the paper in there until you've stitched around the edge. And so the centers have been removed already. And what I do is I stitch them on the quilt square, the block. And then once it's all stitched all the way around the outside, I still haven't taken out the outside papers. Once it's all stitched around this outside and looks like this, then I turn it over and I clip the center out. Then I take the papers out. And that way it stays really nicely shaped, and you know, you don't lose your your pretty curves, because look how nice those curves look. I couldn't have done that without that paper being in there. Even if I had pressed it and took the paper out, I don't believe I could have done that nice of a job on the curves. So, and this is what I do. You know, you figure out how many you need to make one block, or to make one flower is what I call them, and sort it out so you have the right number of things. And then now on this one, on the regular hexes, there's actually a punch. There's two or three sizes of punches you can buy to punch out the pattern, the paper pattern. These paper patterns I I made just by, you know, laying it out and doing the math and excuse me, and all. But these are reusable. And then you poke a hole in the middle. Now this one here, I cut that on the Cricut. These were cut by hand and then punched. You punch a hole in the middle so that when you so that you can pin it. So it goes like this, and then you take your pin and you pin it just right here in the center through that little hole. And that holds it in place long enough for you to do what you're going to do. And I showed you how to do these without a paper. Now you could do this size the same way, not this particular design because of the curve. I was looking to see if I had, here's one that's not a curve. See the difference? You have to have these for the center. But with these, you don't have to be exact with your fabric. With these little ones where you don't use a paper, you have to be exact with how you cut it, because that determines the size and the shape. But with the bigger ones, with the paper, you can use any, you know, you can use, as long as the scrap's big enough. And I usually try to cut it about 1/4 of an inch, but it's not always perfect. See that one? That's not perfect. But as long as it's 1/4 of an inch, enough to fold down, then you're fine. So this is the same way. So these are done a little bit differently. You start here, you take a little stitch, you just see that thread's loose right there. That thread's loose. So I stitch here, take a little stitch, go fold it down, go over here, take another little stitch just through the fabric, another little stitch, and you do that all the way around until you get to the end, and you just put another little double stitch. Then that's ready to use. You could set it aside until you're ready to use it. So that's how those work. These are curved ones are a little different, like I said, but it's basically the same thing, you know. On them, you have to, let me find one that's done. On the curved ones, what I do is I start here, go this way. Then when I get up here, I'm sorry, I said that wrong. I start here and I do a little running stitch. Then when I get over here, I pull that tight and it pulls it around that curve. I don't know if that's a good way to explain that. But it's just like a little running stitch that pulls it up to the size it needs to be. You just pull that thread until it fits around there like it's supposed to. And then you just go on around like you did on the other one. And then you can see here, because I use a different thread, you can see, I hope you can see, I'm holding it where I can see it. See these little stitches? There, you hold them like this, where these are together, and then you do your little bitty stitches going like this, so that you're just catching a couple of threads. So when you turn it right side, you hardly see them. That's how those are done. And then they're appliqued down and trimmed off the back. So if you're interested in these, really would be a good idea for you to go on YouTube and look for paper piecing or hexes. They call them hexes because they're hexagrams. There's all kinds of paper piecing that uses a lot more intricate shapes than this, and it is beautiful. It is beautiful. So now these are some that I wasn't very happy with the way, because I used gray thread. See, you can see my thread. So those, I set them aside, and they'll have to be something done with them, either taken apart or something, because I don't like it. But now these, you see, you can't see the thread. thread from the front. So I just wanted to show you that. I thought you'd be interested in that. And if it weren't upstairs, I'd go get my little 1 inch. These are like, they're not even an inch, I don't think. See how big these are. Yep, they're an inch. These are 1 inch pieces. See the difference? Ta-da! So I'm going to stop because it's that time, and I'm sure y'all are tired of looking at this, probably. And so I'm going to stop so you can do something else more exciting, and I can go feed the dog and go have some lunch and what have you. And thanks for coming by, seeing as I wasn't planning on doing a broadcast today. It was a sort of last moment decision. But have fun. I think I'm going to like this. I think it's going to, I'll probably only be using a piece about this big on the front of a journal. But it's so there's enough here to do several. I could use them for other things too. I just wanted to try it. I really wanted to try this fleece. It's working pretty well. Has a nice little cushiony feel to it. Ow. Unless you've got a needle that you get stuck with a pin. So thank you everybody so much for coming by. And oh, Vintage Rose by Kim. Hi Kim. If you're not on, if you want a Happy Mail from me, I would be very excited and happy to send you something. But I have to have your address. So if you're not on the Fibbsville address on Facebook or Beth Schuler's address list on Facebook, then send me your address and I will be happy to send you some Happy Mail. And I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you everybody for coming. I'll see you next time. Goodbye.